We begin with our big story. President Biden calling the U.S.-led airstrikes against Yemen's Houthi rebels a success just a short time ago. It was the first time he publicly commented on the strikes. The president also says the U.S. will respond to further attacks from the rebels in the Red Sea. Houthi leaders are threatening revenge after more than 80 Tomahawk cruise missiles were launched by several carriers and destroyers, hitting more than 60 targets and destroying weapons, radar, and surveillance systems. The strikes are in response to an increasing number of attacks against commercial ships in the Red Sea since the start of the war between Israel and Hamas. For more on this, we turn to Pentagon press spokesperson Sabrina Singh. Sabrina, thanks so much for joining us. If we can start by you telling us how degraded were the Houthis' capabilities in the wake of these strikes? Have you done a bomb damage assessment?
Thanks, Elizabeth, so much. Well, as you mentioned, we are doing an assessment right now. We're doing a battle damage assessment. I don't have a concrete answer for you on just how that's going just yet, but we do feel confident that we were able to degrade and disrupt Houthi capabilities that have been targeting commercial vessels that have been transiting the Red Sea with U.S. ships in its presence and other flagships in the presence of commercial vessels. And so it's something that we took deliberate and precise, surgically precise action last night in response to these attacks. And again, while we're doing our assessment, we feel confident that we were able to degrade some of the capabilities, such as the cruise and ballistic missiles that we know the Houthis use, along with UAV systems, and of course their radar systems that have been, capabilities that have been used against ships that have been just transiting the Red Sea. And the Red Sea, as you know, is an area that sees 15% of the world's commerce flow through it. So an incredibly important waterway that needs to be protected and needs to be remained open and free for ships to pass through.
Do you believe that they could conduct those same strikes on ships based on the damage so far?
Well, look, what they had yesterday or the day before, they don't have today. So I can't speak to what they are going to do or what they're going to try to acquire. What I can tell you is what they have less of. And we know what we were able to do. I mean, we targeted about 16 different locations over the course of the evening in partnership, in coalition with other countries. And so we feel not only very confident in the fact that we're able to degrade their capabilities, but again, we're still doing our assessment. If we feel that we need to take further action, you saw the president, you saw the secretary say this last night, we always reserve that right to do so.
Sabrina, we know Defense Secretary Austin is still in the hospital. We understand that he participated in that meeting January 1st with the national security team when President Biden directed his team to develop these military options. But we know that he was not in touch with the White House in the days after he was hospitalized. So what can you tell us about the secretary's involvement in the days leading up to these strikes?
Yeah, I can tell you, since January 5th, when he resumed his full authorities and duties, he's been incredibly engaged, not just with the White House, but with Central Command, who was, of course, the executor of those strikes last night, and, of course, has been in touch with the chairman. The secretary has been engaged over the last 72 hours. Just on Tuesday, we saw the latest or the largest barrage of Houthi cruise and ballistic missiles fired towards ships in the Red Sea. He was real-time monitoring that, and last night he was real-time monitoring, getting updates from Central Command, making sure that he was, kept not only up to date, but was updating the president and the White House, the National Security Council. So he's very much been back at work, no rest for him. And we are, of course, wishing him a speedy recovery.
President Biden did just say today it was a lapse in judgment for Secretary Austin not to tell him about his hospitalization sooner. What's your response to the president's comments?
Well, I think the secretary took full responsibility for not disclosing that he had, of course, prostate cancer and not disclosing that to the White House. Look, this is something that, of course, is a private medical issue, but he did acknowledge that he should have disclosed that information to the White House. And again, he is fully engaged in not only watching the actions and the strikes that we took last night, but has been engaged throughout the week and last week since he resumed his full duties. So again, I know the president said this as well. We're wishing him a healthy and speedy recovery. We're looking forward to seeing him back here at work, of course. But he did, take responsibility, and we did put out that statement. from him.
How is the secretary feeling today, Sabrina? Can you give us updates on his condition? And how is he able to monitor and make these calls, securely from where he is in the hospital?
Well, he does have a secure room in his hospital that he is able to access. He has a full suite of communications, the same ones that he has here at the Pentagon. So it's an incredible system that travels with him. He's able to access it at all time. Today, he's still in good condition. He's been making calls to members on the Hill. Again, he's been in touch with, of course, just over the last 72 hours with Central Command, with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and of course, the National Security Council. I can tell you he's very actively engaged with his staff and his team as well. And of course, I know that he is definitely looking forward to coming back to the building soon.
And I know, Sabrina, you brief the press regularly. We get updates from the Pentagon regularly. You joined us here on ABC News Live last week, just hours before the news of his hospitalization broke. Should we expect any changes on how you will keep the public informed going forward?
Well, of course, we're going to continue to keep the public informed on the secretary's condition, on his health. We've committed to doing that. We've committed to doing that privately with not only members of the press corps, but also publicly from the briefing room. That's something that you will continue to hear from us, echoing not only the need for transparency, but we do want to keep you updated on the secretary's health, and we're committed to doing that.
Appreciate that. Sabrina Singh, thanks so much. Let's bring the big story now to our panel. Joining us is ABC News senior Pentagon reporter Louis Martinez, ABC News contributor and former Republican Congressman John Katko, Democratic strategist and president of Next Gen America, Christina Tinson Ramirez, and ABC's national security analyst Mick Mulray. Louis, I'm going to go to you first. Put into context what you heard from Sabrina, what you're hearing from your sources at the Pentagon today about this military action, these airstrikes from the U.S. How significant of a response from this, and what do you make of the assessment from the president and from the Pentagon that it was a success, or at least the president saying it was a success?
Elizabeth, it sounds like the preliminary assessment is that they were successful strikes targeting those missiles, targeting those drone locations where they've been firing at these commercial ships in the Red Sea. I think further analysis needs to be done to see exactly how degraded their capabilities are. We know that the Houthis have a lot of these Iranian-made missiles and drones, and that the United States actually had really good intelligence to figure out exactly where they were and how to target them. So I think more to come in coming days, but we also have to wait and see what kind of a reaction we're going to see from the Houthis. We know that they did fire one missile at a ship earlier today. It did miss and landed in the sea, but it's going to be interesting to see how much more they attempt to do over coming days. Well, one official saying that they have to figure out exactly how much they have left of those Iranian-made missiles and drones.
Right, and as we talk about the Houthi response, Mick, you've said that these strikes are unlikely to deter future attacks. What else can the U.S. do from here? What other steps can it take to try to prevent and deter this from becoming a back and forth between the U.S. and the Houthi militants?
So, Elizabeth, this will degrade their capability of launching these attacks. These were substantial. They hit like 28 sites. That included radar, that included launch sites and probably storage facilities. And it looks like some senior Houthi leaders. So it was a substantial attack by the United States, by the UK and our allies. Don't want to diminish that. But the Houthis are known for resilience. They will definitely attack again. This was mostly on the Red Sea coast. It was not on the Sea of Aden. That's where the launch came today. So I do think there'll be more attacks toward the U.S. in commercial shipping. But the United States needs to be prepared to go after them again.
John Katko, what do you make of the response from the U.S. and the U.K.? This was done between the two countries. Do you see this lessening the likelihood of this becoming a wider war?
Yeah, I think what's most dangerous is doing nothing. And that's why I really think it's good that the U.S. did this in conjunction with some of its allies. And I think the response was proportionate. And I think going forward, they need to respond like Mick said. I think Mick's exactly right. Will this stop them from doing it to Houthis? No. Has it damaged them? Yes. And if it keeps it up, you ratchet it up a little bit and they'll get the message. The Houthis are not in and of themselves a clear and huge danger to U.S. or others, but they can be a really dangerous annoyance. And we just got to keep them at bay. And if they do this again, we have to respond. And I think proportionality is the way to go. And it's good that they did this today. Very important to do so.
Mick is so often right. That's why we love having him on the show. Christina, we did hear the United Nations Secretary General today react to the airstrikes, pleading for peace and stability in the Red Sea. How should the U.S. respond to that plea from the United Nations?
Well, I think the big risk, as John and others have stated here, is further regional violence and this breaking out into greater war. And I think you even heard calls not just from the United Nations with fear about that. You heard folks here in the Democratic Party. So the Biden administration has to try to make sure that, yes, there is not greater regional conflict, and also try and keep the Democratic Party coalition together, because there were real questions called about the administration in this attack. And so I don't think there's any easy answers or movement forward, especially because I don't think, as others do, that this is going to deter the Houthis moving forward. And so it's a wait and see game right now.
And John Kecko, I want to get one more quick response from you. What do you make of the Pentagon, Sabrina Singh's response to some of these concerns we've seen about transparency, about the Defense Secretary's hospitalization? Are they trying to apologize enough, take enough steps to make up for what they did not disclose?
Well, it was a colossal lapse of judgment, at a minimum, not to have informed the President of the United States when we're in a very delicate situation in the Middle East and around the world, that your top guy, the Department of Defense, is very ill. We wish him well. We hope he's okay. We hope this is water under the bridge now. But we must learn from it and put in safeguards to make sure that doesn't happen again. God forbid something happened while he was out of pocket. That's something we can't have happen again. We got to learn from this to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Louis, John, Christina, and Mick, thank you all so much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.